Spock's best romance happened in Star Trek, the original series season 3, but it was all a lie. In the rich and varied history of Star Trek, the original series TOS, romance was often a subtle, sometimes tragic, undercurrent. Amidst the towering intellect of Spock, the pragmatic brilliance of Captain Kirk, and the fierce loyalty of Dr. McCoy, the series still managed to carve out moments of emotional depth in the relationships between the characters. While Spock's own romantic endeavors were few and far between, one romance stands out as one of the most poignant and ultimately heartbreaking of the entire series. It happened in season 3, in the episode The Tholian Web, and yet it wasn't even real. The context of Spock's relationships. From the very first episode, Spock was positioned as an enigma. His Vulcan heritage dictated that he suppress his emotions, making him an ideal foil to the fiery and passionate Captain Kirk. It was through Spock's calm demeanor and logical mind that the tension of the show often manifested, particularly in his interactions with the crew. Though Kirk and McCoy would argue or tussle with each other in moments of high emotion, Spock's stoicism acted as a stabilizing force. Romance, of course, is not something that fits easily with the Vulcan ethos. Spock's relationships with women on the show were typically brief or non-committal. The closest he came to anything resembling romantic attachment was his ill-fated involvement with the Vulcan T'Pring in the episode Amok Time in Season 2. Even then, the romance was more about cultural obligation than actual love. The tension between Spock's duty and his inner emotions was a key theme, but it wasn't until Season 3 that Star Trek tried something even more unusual for Spock, a potential romantic interest that would come with the illusion of a deep emotional connection. The Tholian Web and the Illusion of Love. The Tholian Web, the 9th episode of Season 3, is often regarded as one of the most intense and emotionally charged episodes of Star Trek, TOS. It centers around the Enterprise becoming trapped in an interdimensional web created by the Tholians, and the crew's struggle to survive. However, it's Spock's relationship with a character named Lieutenant Mira Romaine that really adds layers of complexity to the episode. Lieutenant Romaine, played by the talented actress Diana Muldaur, is introduced as a communications officer aboard the Enterprise. She quickly develops a deep affection for Spock, and it is through her eyes that we see a different side of the stoic Vulcan. Throughout the episode, Romaine becomes emotionally invested in Spock, even going so far as to express a passionate attachment to him. She seems to believe that Spock reciprocates her feelings, and it's in this belief that the true heartbreak lies. While the episode doesn't overtly state that Spock feels the same way, it does hint at the possibility. In a few key moments, Spock demonstrates a sense of protectiveness toward Romaine, a tenderness that feels entirely out of place for the usually detached Vulcan. When Romaine is nearly killed, Spock's reaction is one of raw emotion. He even shows concern for her safety, something that, given his usual coolness, feels almost jarring. The problem is that all of this is an illusion. As the episode unfolds, we learn that Spock's seeming affection for Romaine is not what it seems. The stress of the dangerous situation and the proximity to the interdimensional rift messes with the crew's perceptions, particularly Spock's. His actions are, in a sense, a side effect of the situation at hand, and the emotional bond that Romaine believes exists is merely a result of the confusion and chaos caused by the Tholian Web. A romance built on misunderstanding. The tragedy of Spock's relationship with Mira Romaine is that it never truly existed. Romaine's intense feelings were based on an illusion, a brief emotional attachment born out of the overwhelming stress of the Enterprise's predicament. For her, it felt real, and it appeared to mirror the depth of Spock's usual emotional suppression, but it wasn't. Spock's actions were not the result of love or affection for her, but the product of the extreme circumstances surrounding them. In a way, this makes the romance in The Tholian Web even more poignant. Spock, always so controlled and reserved, was unable to break through the barrier of his own emotions long enough to connect with